Hello and welcome to Across the Pond, a podcast program prepared by the communications team of CIWA, the Cooperation in International Waters in Africa. My name is Karine Durand. In this new episode, we invite you to learn more about the Cubango-Okavango River Basin, what is the ecosystem of the region, how CIWA is supporting the country dialogue policy and the transfrontier conservation. Aleix Capdevilla, our CIWA Senior Water Resources Management Specialist, gives us some answers. Karen Schneider, our comms specialist, is leading the conversation.
Hello and welcome to the Across the Pond podcast of the Cooperation in International Waters in Africa program. Today we are focusing on the Okavango River Basin, and our guest is Aleix Capdevilla, a Senior Water Resources Management Specialist at the World Bank. Welcome, Aleix. Would you kindly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here. Basically, I am from Spain. I love outdoors and I love nature, and this is what drew me to study water resources and become a hydrologist. Yes, I have been in the bank for about 5.5 years, 3 of which have been in the Luanda duty station in Angola.
Thank you, Aleix. So first, I'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about the Okavango region.
The Okavango is a river, no? The Okavango is a river and its basin is located in southern Africa. It's about 500,000 square kilometers in size, so it's about twice the size of the Senegal River Basin and about equal in size to the Colorado River Basin in the US. It's a transboundary basin, so it spans 3 countries. The headwaters of the Okavango start in southern Angola, in an area that we call the Angola Water Tower. But basically it starts in South Angola. It crosses the panhandle of Namibia. Namibia has a panhandle called the Caprivi Strip. So the Okavango crosses this strip and then goes into Botswana, where there is the Okavango Delta. So it's a river basin that doesn't have an outlet into the ocean. It's a river basin that ends in a landlocked basin, no? And it creates an inland delta that basically floods every year with the waters that come from Angola that fall during the rainy season, no? So that's how the basin is.
Thank you, Aleix. How would you describe the ecosystems in the basin? And if you can explain for our listeners the dynamics of upstream and downstream. And then lastly, if you could talk a bit about the challenges that the people face in the region.
Great. Yes. This is a very good question because basically the water dynamics, the river dynamics in the basin, they drive everything. I'm not sure if our listeners are going to know what the intertropical convergence zone is, no? But working in Africa, it's an important thing to mention. Basically, this intertropical convergence zone is an atmospheric belt of convective activity, which is what creates the tropical rainfall around the equator. And this belt of rainfall oscillates around the equator following the southern hemisphere summer, and then it oscillates north to the northern hemisphere summer, and so on and so forth. No, so this tropical convergence zone gets to the south of Angola. That's in the headwaters of the Okavango towards November, December, January, February, and that's when the rainy season is. In these 4 months, all of the water of the Okavango falls during that period. Why is this important to know? The upper watershed is basically old Kalahari sand dunes covered by forests and grasslands. So basically this is like a giant sponge, no? That has the size of Switzerland. So when this rain comes from November to February and falls in the upper watershed, this massive sponge of sand covered by forests, it absorbs all this rainfall, and then it slowly releases this rainfall into the river that flows downstream to Namibia and then Botswana during the long dry season where not a lot of rain happens, no, or falls. So basically, one could say that this upper watershed, what we call the Angola Water Tower, is like a climate asset, no? Because it stores the water from the rainy season and then it releases it slowly during the long dry season. Perhaps additional context would be that this region is very difficult to access because there is no infrastructure and the roads are extremely poor, and the communities that live there are basically isolated from the government, from the rest of the world. They practice subsistence agriculture, and they are poor. No, that's where the poverty in the basin is. It's in the upper watershed. Then the people that live in the Caprivi Strip of Namibia, down lower in the delta, in the river, and then in the delta in Botswana, that's where all the safari industry is. So no rain falls over there because the rain comes from the waters. Rain is in Angola and the water comes from Angola. But all the economic activities, all the safari industry is in Botswana, and then also, of course, agriculture and fishing in Namibia and Botswana. No? So we have this disparity. Upstream, we have poverty and underdevelopment, but that's where we have a huge climate asset, which is this amazing sponge that retains the rainfall and releases it during the dry season, so that downstream, all the economic activities can take place in Namibia and Botswana. No?
That's very helpful. Thank you, Aleix. You were talking about the poverty of part of the region. If you could talk a little bit more about some of the World Bank's long-term investments and how, in particular, these investments and projects are working to improve livelihoods for especially for the poor people in the region.
Great. Yes. I think here it's important to mention CIWA's work over the last years in the basin, no? And the production of what we call the MISOA, which means the multi-stakeholder investment options analysis, no? And this is a long policy dialogue that CIWA supported with also analytical studies that this MISOA report. What this work did is brought the three member states together during a period of several years, so that representatives from the different member states and the different teams from the member states could discuss and figure out the strategy for the basin and how to manage the water resources for the basin, how to coordinate investments, and how to have a coordinated development of the basin. So it's a work that really, I think, sets the foundation for anything that will happen going forward. And it is basically CIWA that funded this work. No?
Thank you, Aleix. Now I'd like to ask, what are the key takeaways of CIWA's work and the World Bank's work in the region?
The main recommendations on this MISOA analysis are along three main dimensions, or three key topics. The first recommendation is on climate resilient livelihoods and the development of a program to see how we can develop livelihoods in the upper watershed in a way that is sustainable in terms of water conservation, climate resilience, and long-term sustainability without affecting the ecosystem services of water regulation that the area has. So that's the first recommendation. The second recommendation is also on enabling basin-wide ecotourism in the Okavango River Basin. How do we share the benefits of the safari industry and ecotourism, which now is mainly occurring in Botswana and a little bit in Namibia, but how do we also bring this to Angola? And the third recommendation is on the cooperative infrastructure development program. There's pressures to develop infrastructure in the basin, but these investments tend to have impact. It's very important that these are done in a cooperative manner across the three member states, and everybody's on the same page. This is the key takeaways, from the work done to date in the Okavango Basin.
Thank you, Aleix. And so that's where CIWA's value add comes in getting the countries and the river and the various institutions in the river basin to cooperate over these shared challenges and potential investments.
Yeah, and also maybe we could add that it supports the policy dialogue among the three member states with a lot of know-how. For example, a lot of modeling studies of different kind supported this dialogue, this process, so that everything that was done with the support of sort of evidence-based, analysis and decisions.
Very good. Thank you, Aleix. Well, now I'd just like to open it up to you to see if there's anything you would like to add about this quite interesting region.
Yes, it's important that we take advantage of this opportunity we have to conserve this place before it's too late. Now that agriculture pressures and economic development pressures after the Civil War have been increasing. So we have a unique opportunity now to protect and conserve this place as a climate asset. So it's an exciting time ahead as we are having these discussions, and we try to crystallize some CIWA support for the region. Thank you so much, Karen.
Very, very good, Alice. Thank you. It's a fascinating region.
Listeners, we have been speaking with Aleix Capdevilla on the Cubango-Okavango River Basin. We hope this discussion has been informative to you and that you have learned on our engagements in the region. Until next time, we bid you goodbye.